Just announced that the meeting has started.
Okay, this meeting to the Economic Revitalization Committee is starting. It is recorded. Again, there's only one real topic. We're trying to resolve possible redistricting of the voter zones in the Daniel Boone School District. We had one meeting. We just discussed it, and I think we're trying to come up with a recommendation to the rest of the board to go forward. Mr. Zubers, just so we can clarify.
Let me just put in a date for the record.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's March 26th.
March 26th, 6:30 p.m.
Thank you.
I just had a question for Mr. Zubers. If I understand it, we have a number of options. One you don't recommend is do nothing.
Correct.
Okay. One is to go entirely at large across the board.
Correct.
One is to go 3 zones with equal three voting districts divided up based upon, or 9 voting districts divided up based upon population.
Correct.
Okay. Now, can we go? Okay.
Okay, so I have a question. So if we do the 3, we basically have 3 members from 3 different districts.
You would have 3 members based
Yes,
upon an election.
each region has to have equal representation on the board.
Okay, and again, that's based on the population. So based on what our maps are laid out and based on the way the population is, could we do that? Do you see us being able to figure out 3 different districts? Again, they have to be, next to each other, and there is a way to divide the, whatever, there's 9 of them, I guess, right now. 9 of them into groups of 3, and they're joining each other and get away with equal population, roughly equal population of them all.
Yeah, I didn't actually do the mapping.
There's actually 10. Okay.
There's 10 right now. When I looked at
okay.
Wait, and I'll just go real quick. Amity 1 is 13, just round numbers, 1,300. Amity 6 is 2,300. Amity 2 is 2,100. Amity 5 is 1,900. Amity 4 is 29. Amity 3, it looks like 2,000. Union 1 is 26. The other union is 883. Birdsboro 1 is 1,100. Birdsboro 2 is about 3,000.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can, and I've played with some numbers where you can get it into 3s. The unfortunate, I don't know what to call it unfortunate, but if you start shifting them around, what you end up doing is reducing Union Township to getting really only 1 guaranteed seat. Birdsboro getting only guaranteed 1 guaranteed seat, because the other one potentially could come out of those 883 that are in the French Creek area. Okay? And then the rest would fall in Amity Township.
So there's no way to put the 2 Birdsboro and 1 Amity together?
I thought there was a way.
Yeah, I thought there was a way to do the 2 Birdsboro.
Does
the 2
Birdsboro 1 touch?
Yeah, because as long as
okay.
What is it?
You could combine Amity 1 and Birdsboro 1 together, and it would be about...
And Amity and Birdsboro 2.
About 3,300.
And Birdsboro 2.
And well, if you're going to 3 and not 9.
Yeah, I was going to go 3 equal. I'm asking for 3 equal.
Yeah, I thought that the one...
If we do 3 equal districts, if we do 3 equal districts, we take Birdsboro, all Birdsboro, and I think it's the one in Amity, like number 6, or the one that's adjoining it. The
Amity 1 at 1,300. Then you'd have 343. You'd have about 5,300 people in that one.
Okay. Then you could do the 2 unions.
Then you would do probably Amity 3, Union 1, and Union 2 together, which puts you about 5,000 people.
And then the rest of them.
The rest of them, see, the problem is when you do the rest, you're sitting at 22. That's 4, 5. You're sitting about 8,000 in the other, so you're still skewed.
I thought that if you took, and I'm not sure if this was Connor's recommendation, Connor, you can jump in. Amity 3, 4, and 6 comes to about 6,500. Union 1 and 2 with Amity 2 and 5 comes to 7,200. It's a little bit of a jump. And then Birdsboro 1, 2, Amity 1 is 7,500.
So they're all within. So they're all within that. That's what I think. I think that's a fair way to. Again, my point is, I think if we give this recommendation, it's as fair, as close as we're going to get to this. one is it's supposed to be approved, and two is,
What were they again, Brian?
It goes, and I'm trying to find my map to make sure they all touch.
I've got the map right here.
It's,
I have an extra map.
Birdsboro 1 and 2,
Right.
and Amity 1.
So you got Birdsboro 1 and 2, and Amity 1. Okay, they touch.
And then you have Union 1 and 2, and Amity 2 and 5.
so you could put 4 of Amity's with 2 of the unions.
Okay.
And then
you have Amity 3, 4, and 6.
So again, now they're different in size-wise, but they're close enough
Population.
population in the ballpark,
I
right?
think that's defensible.
So then I think not to be rude, that's probably the closest we're going to get. First of all, this again has to be approved by a judge, right, Mr. Zubers?
First
we
by
can
the
submit.
board, and then it's submitted for approval to the court. Right.
And two is, now will this happen next election, or and it'll be phased
It
out?
won't
We
be
can
this
phase
year's.
it in.
Yeah, we can phase
No,
it
no,
in.
no, I'm not talking May. I'm talking.
No, well, we thought, because I did talk to Brian about this when we were on the phone. We phase them in as people in those particular zones. So the next election, which will be a year from now,
Okay.
when my seat is up, Mr. Shermanero's seat is up,
Mr. Wolf's seat is
Mr.
up,
Wolf's seat is up,
and I believe Scott's.
and Mr. Potts' seat is up.
Okay.
Okay?
Where we'll have, I mean, as far as the phase-in, I haven't considered that in matching up.
Because again, I think it's
But
more.
luckily, the interesting part is there's a Birdsboro,
Oh, that's good.
there's a Union, and 2 Amity. And I think just so happens that I can't remember, Mr. Potts lives over in Amity 1, if I'm not mistaken.
He lives over near Danny Boone Homestead.
Yeah, so he's Amity 1.
One,
which
so
would
is
be Birdsboro 1
and then
Amity.
Wolf would be that
See, there's
same
the problem, though. You're going to take an Amity seat, currently an Amity seat, and a Birdsboro seat, and you'll have both those two up in the
rerunning against each other, correct?
Yeah, against each other.
But that's the way it's going. We're never going
No,
to. It's never going to be perfect.
They wouldn't be running against each other.
They would have 3 seats from that.
They'd
And
have 3
2 of
seats.
them would be up anyways.
Correct.
That would be okay.
Correct. So I think it's the fairest way.
Andrew.
Yeah,
I think-
and I think as you start to roll off, and mine coming up, and I believe I live over in Amity 3, which would be Amity 3, 4, and 6. So, yeah, I think
And
it's
Mr. Scenaro
defensible. I think it's defensible. You would almost always guarantee everybody to have at least, you would guarantee everybody to have 1 seat.
Okay. I think that's what we recommend to the board then.
What's that?
Well, we were looking at, again,
What we're looking at, Andrew, you got your map?
Yeah.
Going into 3, Birdsboro 1 and 2, and Amity 1 as one region.
Yeah.
Union 1, 2, and Amity 2 and 5.
And then 3,
And
4,
then
and
Amity
6.
3, 4, and 6.
They're within population-wise
You get the
almost identical.
populations plus or minus a single-digit percentage of each other.
I think I was looking at, there's another one, which is Birdsboro 1, 2, Amity 1, Union 1, Union 2, Amity 5, Amity 3, Amity 2, Amity 4, Amity 6. And that has like a 13% deviation.
But don't they have to touch each other?
They do.
Okay. Either way.
We were at a smaller deviation with the one we just did.
what was your zone?
It was B1, B2, A1,
Which is the same.
U1, U2, U5, U3.
A3,
I'm sorry, yeah, U1, U2, A5, A3.
we have A1.
A2, A4, A6. That came up with like a, I think it was like a
13% deviation?
but that gives you, now what we're talking about is each of those districts elects 3
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're not. Yeah. We're trying to figure out that each of those districts each get 3 people on the board.
Now the other one I looked at was if you broke it down to 6 districts and 3 members at large. And it was B1 as one district, B2 as another district, U1, U2 as a third district, A3, A5, as a fourth, A1, A4 as a fifth, and A6, A2 as a sixth. And that one has about a 36% deviation.
But with the at-large, at-large portion, but with the at-large, you take that away. With the at-large, you could argue that one. With the at-large, it could come from many ways. You take the deviation out of it. You don't think that's defensible?
I don't think that would.
It may be a factor, but I think you're still supposed to be making them as equal a population as you can. Now,
As you can.
As you can.
But the problem is with our districts, the disparity, there's too much disparity between one district and the next.
So, and that's a factor. That all has to be considered, or would be considered.
The only problem with doing it that way, the second way is you could have 3 at large coming from all of Amity plus the 2 other ones.
Yeah, I'm just throwing out possibilities.
And I agree
That's all
with
I was
you.
trying to do is provide options.
Your way or the first way we came up with prior to you
Which
coming
was
in
the
here.
one you guys had? It was B1, B2, A1, A1, U1, U2,
and
A2, A5?
yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
And that one right there is a little closer than what you had, I think.
A2.
That the A2, A1, A2, U1, U2 is 7,452. Birdsboro didn't change, so that's
6502.
502.
But which statistics are we using? I'm using the ones that came from that website.
Yeah, that's what I got here.
Okay, so the first one, B1, B2, A1 is 6502, right?
Correct.
And then U1, U2, A5, A3 is 7,452. And then A2, A4, A6 is 7,295.
Which one was that again?
The last one, which is A2, A4, A6, is 7,295.
I use U1, U2, A2, A5.
A2, A5.
Is 7450.
Well, yeah, the only difference you're talking, how could that be the same?
I'm going to push the buttons again. I got 2620 for Union 1 and 883 for Union 2, correct?
Yep.
2620 and 883.
Okay. And then I go up at A2.
Well, the one that's the same is A5, right? So add 1869.
Okay, that means 5372.
And then the difference is between the two. A2 is 2141 versus A3, which is 2080. So you're only looking at like 61,
Yeah.
61 vote or 61 voters.
So either one of those would be because within a close amount, right? I mean, Brian, we're within reason of no matter which way we do it.
Yeah, I think that by doing A5, A2, I'm sorry, by doing A5, A3, you're at a lower number, right? Because A3 is lower than A2.
Correct.
And so the variation gets a little bit smaller between that block and the B1, B2, A1 block. That's all.
But do we all agree with? I mean, this is probably which groups we support. Suggest. I think that's the fairest way to do it. And again, first of all, it has to be approved by the board. It has to be approved by a judge, and see what happens.
Let me ask you this, though, Brian. I know. I mean, so how much case law is out there on this? I mean, at the end of the day, the judge can sit back and say, "Look, let's look at all this case law," and you got in Union Township, you got or Daniel Boone, you got to fall in line. Or if we came with some sort of hybrid plan, would they say, that's just, you're out there? Because I keep getting back to this issue of, like, Birdsboro and Union and Amity are so different. And if we came in with a plan that said, okay, well, look, everybody gets 2, and then, there's some sort of other, or everybody gets 1, and then there's some other combination. Sort of just like the way we have our federal Congress. You have senators and you have congressmen. And one's based on
we don't have a two house board, but I got you. Everybody gets one, and then and we talked about that. I mean, could we do that? Could everybody get one? And
would a judge look at it and say, yeah, I can understand the argument because they are very different.
Right.
Municipalities.
And realistically, though, based upon turnout and who's running, Union could not have any seats for a little while.
If it's an at-large issue, yeah.
Birdsboro-
Or even with this one, yeah.
Even
Well,
with
that's what I
this
said.
one, yeah, as long as you've got another municipality in there, you could lock out a municipality from
Correct.
getting a seat.
I'm sorry, Walt, I'm sorry, Dominique. The only thing, with the way scenario we get it up, at least theoretically, you have 2 Birdsboro and 1 Amity. So chances are you can at least get 1 person, maybe 2. It's not like chances of Amity getting all 3. The second one with 2 Union, 2 Amity, it is theoretically that somebody can get 2, somebody can get all 4, somebody can get 1 and 3. But I think it's a matter of campaigning, so to speak.
Well, sure, it's a matter of campaign.
Yeah,
I think
and again,
my only concern is that you have very different demographics. It'd be
I
one
agree
thing
with
if they were all the same,
Listen,
and then
I-
it's all intermingled.
I
But
totally agree.
I think Amity is more of a dual income,
Because
Correct.
different
upper,
socioeconomic
Correct.
class.
Absolutely.
higher economic class. Union's much more rural and lower
in
income, and
between.
Birdsboro is a lower income community as well. So
but the one thing, my concern is though that we don't. If we do an at-large, I think it'll teeter one way or the other. I don't know what it could. Theoretically, you get all people from the
Well,
union.
the biggest concern of having out at large is you get a group out there that has a single platform.
That's my concern too.
That you could seat the entire board with a particular
Correct. Interest group.
interest group. And
That's
you don't
concern.
want that.
That's a huge concern.
yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
Because we're all coming from different, like you
Right.
said, Andrew, we all come from different things. We also kind of
I'd have
support
to look
different
at-
things too.
I'd have to look at this a little closer, but either one of those 2 plans that we just came up with, make it 3. I think it
Well, let's put it this way. I don't think we're going to get 100% right. I think the only way to do it is if we test it, if it is approved, and let the people vote on it. I meant not on this, but I mean actual vote during the next couple of elections as we phase this process in.
Yeah, how does that work? Did you guys actually start talking?
Yeah, we started talking about it.
We phased it in, and I think what is interesting, we have to see which one we selected, and then based upon the next election, we can look at that. Like we'd automatically know the next election, Frank's seat's up. We know that Wolf's seat is up, mine is up, and Mr. Potts' is up.
I think Rob's is up too, isn't it?
No, he just got
No, he
elected.
just got elected.
For 4 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was going to-
So
based
He replaced
upon
Joanne.
What I didn't want to happen, we had discussed this, that is, if we went with combining, like say we made Union 1 its own district, we already have a representative from Union 1 sitting on the board.
correct.
You'd automatically tell them, sorry, you don't have.
Yeah, you don't
no
have a chance.
Come out of.
You don't have a chance of
nowhere.
running it.
With this plan we got here, no matter which one we went with, I think
People can still.
All 4 of
if
these.
Scott still wanted to rerun, he's in one of them.
Correct.
If he wants to rerun, he's in one. If he wants to rerun, he's in a district that he would be able to.
Now they might run. 2 of them might run against each other, meaning Scott might have to run against Mike because I think Birdsboro 1 and 2 and Amity.
Or depending where Scott lives, it could be
Scott lives
Frank
over near
versus
Daniel
Frank.
Brewer.
Right.
So I mean, but at least they.
But then where would the other
How do
seat
you
come from?
assign that?
I don't know, but at least they have a chance of running against each other.
Because, like, I guess that's the question: is you sit there and say, okay, well, let's take Frank's seats for example. That's a Union seat that's up.
I don't
right?
know.
And then you're going to say, okay, well, now
They would
Union
run
is now
against
this
each other,
district,
and
right?
I would
I
probably
should say it's
say
A1,
that.
A2,
Oh yeah.
A5.
Hey, Brian.
Well, what if
Whoever
what
runs has
if
to-
they would
Potts
both
lives
run.
in
They
A5?
would pick 2 people. Well,
So they would then be running for that one seat,
Yes.
whereas the other Amity seat then opens up from where?
One of the zones that didn't have one of us currently living in it.
It would
Correct.
open up. It would open up from this A2, A4, A6
correct.
then zone.
Because under your
That's the
scenario,
next seat
Walt,
that opens
it would
up.
be me, Monica.
Walt's seat would be up in 2 years. So is his seat the A2, A4, A6?
I'm in A3, I believe.
Yeah, but I'm saying is, let's say your seat came up though.
Right.
Well, it would then be, his seat would be where,
Well, there would be
in that
3
new
seats.
region, wherever his new region is.
There would be 3 seats in each zone, each region. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So if there's currently nobody living in, just an example, Amity 3, 4, and 6, each seat that opened up in the future in one of the ones that had 4 or 5 people that we theoretically could have, you look at the Birdsboro 1 and 2 and Amity 1, right now there's 4 people.
So that you dump
living
one of
in
those into that zone.
Current district on this board.
Which district?
Amity, Birdsboro 1 and 2 and Amity 1.
So you would dump one of those seats into
One
that.
of those seats would be lost to...
Correct.
Right. Well, that's what I was just trying to figure out.
Correct.
Which seat is it, and what's the
Well,
process?
okay. So what it would be is Mike and Scott
Would run
one of their,
single
well, they would
seat.
run for one of them in that district. The other one that they're presently
open up
filling
into
would dump into one of the other newer,
where
the other
currently
districts.
it's being represented.
So then you'd have one, possibly those two, but at least they have a chance to run.
Right.
They have a chance to run, they'd be run against it the same way as if, you know,
And
two
they
people.
get to finish their election.
Right.
Correct. And like that, it'd be also as if Monica and I would ever.
We do this, and Burnsboro, Union 1 and 2, and I don't know, let's just take the first scenario, 2 and 5, and I live in 2. That means there's 4 of us in that right now. My seat, if I'm not rerunning, my seat would then be forfeited to
Correct.
the other side as an open seat in one of these other.
Correct.
We'd also have to fill them if nobody ran from somebody living in.
Right.
Correct. With those
area.
districts. Correct. So after the first election, you'd have 3 from each of these new districts.
I mean, it's going to be complex a little bit.
But still, I think that's the fairest way to do it.
I think what we need to do first of all is look to see where we live, where we currently reside within these,
Right.
and where the least amount of disruption, because either one of them gives us about the same population. So we could go with either one of those 2 proposals.
Right.
We just need to see
This
which
doesn't
one.
kick in until 2012.
It won't be this
I mean,
election, 13.
2013.
Correct.
Right.
When's the next census? Weren't they running a census?
No, they do
No,
it 10
20
years.
10 years.
On
2020.
the odd year,
2020.
2020.
So this would affect elections in 14, 16, 18,
Yeah, and 20.
and 20. You go through 3 more, you go for 4 more elections
4 more election votes.
before anybody, you know, before
And
the
it might
population.
not be that disparate
Well, I think it would be,
because
because Union's got 2 major, very large subdivisions on the books right now that are,
okay.
one's approved and the other one's getting approved.
Correct.
So you're looking at probably another 500 residents at least.
Correct. And Birdsboro's not
Union
going
one.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And Birdsboro's not going anywhere.
And Amity's got
And Amity's got a couple that are on the
about
table.
So then but again, that would be like the 2022 election that
Well,
the board
you
would
know
have to
what, and
redo.
maybe, you do this and that's good for 10 years.
That's what I mean.
It becomes less of,
Well, then we don't have to worry about it.
you don't
Well,
you have
what? You're not going to run a couple more times?
this mixed representation.
But you're right.
Maybe 10 years from now, you go at large.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
people aren't as...
Correct. We don't know what it's going to be like.
Because you talk about it, they're putting another, they're putting another addition. Those are all
What?
voting, they're senior citizens.
But you know what, Andrew? In 10 years from now, you don't know what people might have different mindsets. You know what I mean? There's 3 different categories, so you don't know that. Two is it's easier to reshuffle the districts then too. You know, you really only have to reshuffle the districts then because the mechanisms will be in place.
I want to look at these 3 combinations,
Okay.
2 different numbers again. See how
Okay.
they set out.
But I think
Yeah,
that
I would think that, at the next voting meeting, we should be able to make a recommendation.
I do too. I think at the committee of the whole, we lay this out for the rest of the board,
Yeah.
based on the districts, and then say this is what we recommend.
I want to look at, and again, a lot of these maps, I want to look at where our current board members
Right,
sit.
and then,
Correct.
because that's going to be important to your phase-in.
Right.
Correct.
plan.
And I would like to recommend, either one of them is a viable option, but I'd like to have a phase-in that has little disruption to current board members that would like to rerun for their seat.
Correct. And then there are board members who, well, not the next election, but the following election, they won't run again anyway.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the committee of the whole will lay out a game plan for the rest of the board and say this is our recommendation. Now, again, they could vote it down, which means if they vote it down, we'll have to come back with another plan. Right? That's a
Yeah.
committee.
Again, if you do it right and you do what's
No, I'm just saying if they vote it down, we'll just have to come back as a committee and try to redo it again. Although I guess our options are going to be very limited, so. Okay?
unfortunately you don't have the.
We don't have any options.
Yeah, I looked at this 7 ways to Sunday. I think I came up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different options.
Yeah.
And the one we just discussed was probably
Are the closest.
had the lowest deviation.
Correct. And it will change. It will change after the next census. There's just no doubt about it. Like you said, Andrew, with all the housing going up and possibly over at Amity, same thing. What are you going to do? Anything else? Is that it? Are we done?
You're the chair.
Well, I'm not out. Is there anything else? Anybody? I guess we have anybody from the public. Any questions?
Well, you don't think that a hybrid plan would work?
Not like what you're saying now.
Yes, Tom.
I'm Shaq, 729 East 2nd. First, I want to retract something I said at the last meeting. I said not to look at this, but I didn't know all the facts. I think my understanding is, if I have this correct, is the board didn't initiate anything on this. Some outside group was attempting to change this. Is that the point?
Pretty much, yeah,
Okay.
you're correct.
So either you get involved or somebody else is having a bigger say, most likely, in it. Is that correct?
No, what happens is if we don't come up with a plan and submit it to a judge, then they could submit their plan and we wouldn't have any say in it at all.
Okay.
This way, at least we as a board have a say. We can present, Mr. Cooper's will present our platform, so to speak. They can counteract it. They can come up with a different platform, and the judge will decide that.
So again, I want to take back that thing about there's more important things to do it, because you're kind of under a timeline to do this.
Well,
not necessarily.
no one's got a gun to our head, but
but
if somebody beats us to the punch, then it just gets
correct.
much more complicated.
Exactly.
I wasn't aware that you had come up with these. You seem to have it down to 2 right now.
No.
I was thinking, excuse me,
Yeah, 2 different plans. You're
2
right.
different plans. I thought of something before tonight, not knowing those 2, and I'd just like to present that as an option.
Sure, go
Because
ahead.
I believe in Philadelphia, they had, for their council down there, they elect certain people, and then they have at-large people on top of that. Is that correct?
I don't know how
The
Philadelphia's
council
done.
down in Philadelphia. So I think that's permissible.
Okay.
It's permissible to do that. What I would suggest is that you would have 2 from Amity, 2 from Birdsboro, and 2 from Union,
We'd have to
and
redistrict.
3 at large,
We'd still have
and
to
see if the judge would agree to that.
That's what I was just asking him, if we could do some sort of hybrid where we say,
Right.
look, 2, 2, 2, and then do
Yep.
3 at large.
Correct.
You know,
Even where you have a combination at large and regional representation, you still need those regions to be as equal as possible, and that
in terms of numbers
Correct.
of voters,
So if you leave it the way it is,
residents.
if you leave it the way it is, it's not
Right,
the
right.
2, 2, and 2 are not equal.
I understand that.
the
Okay.
regions aren't equal.
The regions
What,
aren't equal.
what I'm saying is,
And that's what Andrew's point was earlier. He was hoping to preserve the integrity of the existing regions because of the the
diversity
distinctions,
of
the
it.
individual.
But you can't.
We can't.
but this way, you could still have the 2 from the one and say 3, so the majority could still come from one of the groups.
No, you don't, no, Mr.
That's not what the
Tom,
requirement
Union right now only has like 4,000 population. Birdsboro has 5. Amity has
12.
12,000. You can't have 2, 2, and 2. Now, if the 2, 2, if all 3 of those had, say, 7,000, then you could do 2, 2 and that large.
I understand what you're saying is, but I'm saying if you put it in front of a judge now, the worst he could do with it is say no, and then you could go back. Couldn't the judge possibly approve it?
That's what I was hoping, yes. That the judge would look at it and say, okay, we understand based on the different demographics that are here that this is why you came up with your plan. It was a rationale for it, and we approve that. I don't know to what degree case law supports that. And a judge, they always like to look at case law. They're not necessarily trailblazers in that respect.
If you look at his example of Philadelphia, Philadelphia redistricts after every census, and they're always arguing over losing this block, gaining that block. They still have the at-large. We can do an at-large. We still would have to redistrict.
Correct.
We could redistrict into 6 districts. Each district gets a person, and then 3 at-large on top of that. That would be the Philadelphia model. Each district, 1 man, 1 vote, and then the remaining 3 would be voted on in all 3 districts.
And when you actually do that, Union Township ends up with 1, Birdsboro ends up with 2, Amity ends up with 3, and then you have 3 at large. That's the way that kind of works. Because you still have, there's 2 constraints. One is you have to follow the election district boundaries.
Correct.
And the second constraint is you have to get uniformity in population. And so, unfortunately, every single district, for the most part, is around 2,000 people. But there's some, like the southern half of Union only has like 800 people in it. And then there's 1 or 2 districts in Amity that are like 1,000. So you get these really large disparities. So even in at-large, where you said, oh, we're going to have 9 different people from 9 different districts, you can't even do that because the disparity between
800 and 2,000 is greater
Well, you
than...
wouldn't even have it at large if you did come from anyone. You could have all come from
No, but there was another one. You could have 9 separate districts, too.
Right.
And you can't even do that.
Like, the
So,
way it is now, they're not equal with population.
That's
I
correct.
understand. And if nobody else would present anything to a judge, it could stay that way.
It could
until
stay that way
somebody did,
forever.
Could
correct?
say that, yes.
So what I don't understand is why you still couldn't go for 2, 2, and 2, give it to the judge, and the worst he can say is no, and then you send something else.
Well, that's true. That is true.
There is a group right now out there that has working on a plan to submit.
Correct.
That is not going to be 2, 2, and 2 with 3 at large.
And therefore, we're trying to, the judge can, you're right, you're exactly right, Tom, but then the judge can go back and say, we're all at large. We're trying to, I don't hate to use the word protect our current voting things, but we're trying to be fair based on we've been sitting on the board. But you're under your plan, you could do that, but if we get shot down, the judge could go around and say it's 9 at large. At least we're trying to come up with what we deem as fair among the 3 right now.
Okay.
And that's why we're trying to present
if
this.
there was, in the absence of any alternative plan, I would agree with you. I mean,
Me
in the
too.
past, if this has come up, I don't know what the previous boards did, but they obviously did nothing.
No, it never came
Right?
up before.
So
This never came up.
Yeah, I'm
it
not
wasn't
hearing it
an
ever
issue.
came up.
And, you know, another option for this board is do nothing and see what happens.
Correct. And it never came up, Tom. 10 years is the first time it came up, about 6 to 8 months ago.
Thank you.
Yep.
Boyertown decided to do nothing. They came up in Boyertown.
Yep. Go ahead, Connor.
Connor Bird, 79 Ridge Drive, Douglasville. I like the speed the committee is going forward with this. I appreciate that. I wasn't exactly sure after the last committee of the whole meeting how long this process would take, but now that we kind of set a timetable, we'd like to have something, not that we will, but we'd like to have something by the next voting meeting. I appreciate that speed. I would like to request that whatever plan the committee agrees on, I think it would be good to include an at-large component, because then it does allow, for example, last year we had a seat in Birdsboro. It was a 2-year special election seat. Nobody even filed to run for it. While in Amity Township, we had 1 seat available, and we had 4 people apply to run for it. And when you have people who want to be on the board, but can't based on where they live, I think you should include an at-large component. Just my opinion. I think that at-large would be, at least to some degree, would be helpful. Because that's truly the fairest form. 1 man, 1 vote. No matter where you live, your vote is the same as a person in another district. It's exactly the same vote. It's the exact same weight. So I'd just like to request, maybe it's 3 at large, maybe 6 at large. I'd just like to encourage the committee to go in that direction. Thank you.
Evening, gentlemen. David Rathgeb, former Western Circle in Douglasville. Kind of second there with Connor. You know, I understand your frustration with the 9 at large. If I was a Birdsboro member or union, I can certainly see your point of view, but I'm going to challenge you to look at it from a different point of view. With the school board, it's really not Birdsboro, not Amity, not union. You're on here for the good of the school and for the kids. So if we're looking at it from that point of view, wouldn't it be best to have as many qualified applicants as possible run for the board from anywhere in our region, and then have 9 at large that are there for the best for the kids? Not thinking of Union, not thinking of Birdsboro, not thinking of Amity.
Mr. Rathgeb, I'll agree to that, and I do agree to that. The only thing is, I'll tell you, here's the case of a scenario where it happened in Wilson right now, where people do still look out for their backyard, so to speak. Wilson, all board members are from 1 district. They're basically almost right down the street. They closed 3 elementary schools, and none of them live in it. That's causing major turmoil in Wilson School District right now. And therefore, if Birdsboro does not have a representative, it is one of the older elementary schools, it's very easy to come up with why you would close Birdsboro versus one of the other 2. So therefore, again, if you want to call it like we're protecting our backyards, but like Mr. Basil said, people from different areas, we do think differently. And it sounds really weird, but it is true. And that's why I'd rather go under a different scenario than at 9 at large. And if there's a different way to do it, you know, let's talk about it. But I'm afraid if we do 9 at large, we could have, and you're right, Connor, it is 1 man, 1 vote, but still, I think if we try to divide it evenly and we have 3 different districts and everybody has the same equal representation, at least try it that way.
I think you also have to take into consideration that the demographics. So there's a lower income strata that tends to dominate the population in Birdsboro and in Amity Township.
Correct.
And can you imagine if you had 9 people up here in Union Township? I mean to say, can you imagine if you had 9 people up here from Amity who are from dual income families that are doing very well for themselves
Correct.
and say, hey, you know what? Let's raise taxes every year. We can afford it because that's what we want for our kids.
Correct.
Meanwhile, you have other people in other districts who can't afford it and they don't have any representation on the board,
And
they're in the minority.
excuse
So
me.
it's a little bit different, and I think those types of considerations need to be held in context when you're talking about the overall what's in the best interest of the school district, what's also in the best interest of the taxpayers of the school district, because they're the ones that support the school district with their dollars. And so I think there's a lot of different facets to this that need to be taken into consideration. And you are right, when we get up here, we are supposed to be representing the entire district, and we are supposed to be doing what we believe is the best interest of the district, as well as the taxpayers of the district. So we got to think about all the different parties
And certainly
that are
there is a
involved.
balance between both, absolutely.
And here,
maybe I'm being a little altruistic.
No, here's the other thing is I'll do a flip side. He said if there were 9 people from Amity, if there's 9 people from Union who, like he said, they're economically a little lower than the people in Amity, they might gut everything in the program. They might get rid of everything that the Amity people still want. Foreign language, so to speak, a band, chorus, football, whatever, sports. Again, depending how it goes, you could actually not just raise taxes, you could actually get rid of everything.
I mean,
So
if you
again,
were present during the
that's a flip side to
stadium conversations, the majority of people in the audience that were against spending the money on the stadium were from Union Township. The
Correct.
majority of people that were for it were from Amity Township.
Correct, absolutely.
So, depending on who you had sitting on the board,
That's what I said.
there may or may not have been a stadium.
You can play the flip side.
I can tell
on
you right
that
now
issue.
that Mr. Basil could probably pull out a dozen emails to people in Union Township saying, do not raise our taxes.
Correct.
I could pull out a dozen right now, except for a few, that say, look, take the tax increase, don't cut our foreign languages,
Correct.
don't cut our programs.
Correct. And that's why we're trying to make it fair to...
I don't think he has any of those. So, I mean,
Again, if you're truly on the board as a representative for the school district, you're taking it all into consideration.
You are.
And you should be taking that, if you're at large, you should take it at
Correct.
all your constituents.
But again, it's easier to come to your neighbor who's down the street from you than your neighbor who's 5 miles away, so to speak, in French Creek Estates, or near French Creek, all the way over to somebody out in Amity over towards Board. You know what I mean? You know your people if you live there. So again, you're right.
I don't disagree with that.
I'm sorry?
I do not disagree with that.
Okay. Again, but I thank you for,
And the other thing to consider
Sure.
is, I mean, you guys are having a hard time here trying to get these districts to jive. I'm just wondering if somebody in Amity is going to figure out who the heck, okay, which district am I in, and who exactly am I voting for? Or they'll actually understand what.
well, that's where we're going to have
well,
to,
actually, you're only going to get the way they're.
You only get the names.
you're going to get names.
You go to.
Right, you're correct.
You won't know.
You go to the firehouse, you're only going to have.
Yeah,
people in your district.
where they live is up to you to figure that
You
out.
go to the township building, you're only going to have people in your district to vote for, so it's not like you need to try to figure out who you vote for.
Right, I understand that. But this is, I think, as you know, the voter turnout's already
Correct.
not great. I hate to throw another monkey wrench into the system.
I'm amazed that the 3 of us actually agree coming from different districts.
Well, the way the constraints that you have there, you almost
No, we are under
You have no
constraints.
choice, we've got 2 plans, you just got to
All
find
right.
out which one works out.
All right, well, then we'll talk about, discuss this at the committee of the whole, make a recommendation on which 3, I think, we agree to that, and we'll go from there and see what happens with the rest of the board. All right? Any other questions? We have to go take our photograph.
You can adjourn.
Okay, we're going to adjourn. Thank you.
I don't think we were meeting at the school library to begin with this.
That's what he thought, but I never thought that.
It wasn't advertised for that.